Hi everyone, and welcome back to Crafting with Purple. In a previous episode, while I was making some duct tape zigzag earrings out of squares to triangles to zigzags, one of my friends, Jeannie, she lives in California, she noticed a bow in the background. And she said that she really liked that bow, and I said I would make a video to show how to create this bow. So if you're interested in the zigzags, just go to my YouTube channel called Crafting with Purple, P-R-P-L-E, and you'll find it there. Okay? So we're going to show you how to make this bow, and it's basically almost exactly like what we did, again, in a previous episode. I needed to make some butterfly bows. The inspiration was a pattern using dollar bills, which I then did in craft paper, which are really easy fold. And those are exactly the same kind of accordion folds to make this bow. And of course you can also do it in ribbon, you can do it in fabric, you can do all kinds of things, but we're going to do it in duct tape. So this is all about accordion pleating. And in the most simplest bow, here's a very simple accordion pleated bow, but we need to make them just a little bit more elaborate so that we have two bows that are connected together to make this what's actually called a butterfly bow. Okay, so that we get the contrast today, so that you can see everything on the video, I'm going to go ahead and work with my red duct tape. So you do not need to measure. It's actually a little bit easier if you have a cutting mat that you're working on, but you can just eyesight however much you want. The key is you need a length of duct tape twice your resulting bow. Okay, so here's our inspiration bow from the previous one, and if I lay it down here, I can actually count out that from edge to edge, this one's actually just a little over 4 inches in length from edge to edge at its widest point. That's because I just eyeballed this one when I did it. But we're going to make one about 4 inches, so just to make our numbers easy. So we basically need 8 inches of duct tape for the both layers of our butterfly. So pull off a length of duct tape, and again, if you have a cutting mat, it makes it really easy because you can stick down one end, and you can go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. I need it to be about there. Again, this does not need to be exact, so you just want to cut straight across. Try not to cut my fingers. If it's a little bit more than 8 inches, a little bit less than 8 inches, you know, it's okay. Now, if you need to be exact, that's cool. All right. Now, since I did cut off approximately 8 inches, I went ahead and just put a little mark here on my board so that I could put my duct tape, lay it out, and I kind of have an idea of where the center is. Otherwise, just kind of look at it and eyeball it, and you can see the striations on the back. It's usually pretty easy, and I know that the middle's right about here. All right. You're going to stick your fingers down. Just know that's going to happen. We need to take this edge, and we're going to be folding it over onto itself into the middle. Now, this is a little fussy. I've had to throw a couple away till I got a little bit better at it, and I'm never really good at it. When I fold it over, I don't want to stick down this bottom edge first. I want to kind of figure out where I need to be in the middle and just very lightly tack it down. And I don't know, I'm going to turn this carefully. Notice it's not tacked down yet. It's still kind of in a circle. Okay, I did that so that I can very carefully take this out to the edge. I want this nice and smooth. Okay. Of course, my fingers are going to stick down on my duct tape because I like to fold from my right to my left. I'm just going to turn this over. I know where my center is now, so I'm going to take this, bring it over. I'm going to tack it ever so gently there in the corner. It doesn't need to line up perfectly, but as close as you can get it. I tack down my edge, and then I very carefully Smooth it out. Now this one I didn't quite get straight, I can tell because it's going off on a kilter. But I want to be as nice as I can. Okay. Now, that one I kind of munged the edge on. And it's still usable. Okay, so don't panic if you do that. Okay, it's still usable. Alright, now before we do our next step, okay, I actually need 2 of these. So before I go on, let's go ahead and make a second one. Okay, so again, things just, when they have duct tape everywhere, things kind of attach. So I'm pulling off another 8-inch length, so I'm just going to tack it down here one corner of my board. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. I need to be right about there. Okay, if you're eyeballing it, just pull off a length of tape. Whatever length you want. Okay. Ah! Okay, that's what happens when you drop things off the edge of your table. And that's okay. We now have red duct tape on the floor. No tragedy. Alright, so I'm going to line this up on my board so I know where the middle is. And again, you can just eyeball this. Okay, if you wanted to eyeball it, a great way to do it is turn it upside down so you can take smooth side to smooth side. That way it doesn't stick together. Okay, and if we, there's our center. Okay, we now can take this edge and we can fold it to the center ever so gently. Okay, and smooth it down as nicely as we can. Sometimes it scrunches, but it's okay, it's a bow, it's going to be pleated. Okay, pull it up, take the other one, bring it up to the edge, line it up along that edge, smooth it out. When they're aligned perfectly, it will smooth out really nice. Okay, come back and look at your edges. Okay, if you see any stickiness along those edges, now's the time to clean it up. Okay, so I have some stickiness here. I'm just going to go ahead and clean that up. Okay, and check on both sides. Okay, and I'm going to check this one really quick because I didn't get all that sticky residue off. We want nice even edges. If necessary, if there's a lot, cut all the way across to make sure that you have a nice straight edge. This one I thought looked okay, but it's not on this side. Trust me, nobody ever aligns these perfectly. So this is when you go ahead and you clean it up. All right. Now, so we've got our 2 pieces, and they should be approximately the same size. This one happens to be just slightly smaller than that one, but that's okay. It's not a problem. Our bottom one's actually going to end up being smaller than our top one, so because of the way we cut it. Now, we need to do something for the center, this center portion. We actually need 3 pieces of tape, one when we accordion pleat the top, one for when we accordion pleat the bottom, and then a center piece. Okay, it can either be in the same duct tape, or you can consider using a contrast. Now, I already threw my red on the floor, so I'm going to go ahead and take this purple tape, and I need 3 thin pieces. So it's just the width of my duct tape, and just cut straight across. Okay, for those of you that just have to have measurements, I never measured this, it's 1/4 of an inch. Okay, and I'm just going to make a couple of these, and I'm just going to stick them on the edge of my table. That way they're ready for when I need them. Okay, You do want to try to go as straight across as you can, but we can fix it later on our last piece. Sorry, my arm just went in the way. So there I've got another little piece, and I've stuck it off here on the edge so I know where everything is. All right, so we've got our two pieces, our top bow and our bottom bow. We have our pieces that are going to connect everything together. And now what we need to do is we need to shape our bow. Okay, and if we look back at our inspiration bow, it actually goes a little bit narrow here and it's notched down here. So we need to do a little bit of cutting. All right, so I've decided that this is going to be my top piece, so let's work on this first. All right, so what I do is on the back you've got a seam. On the front it's nice and smooth. So I usually just fold it over in half. It doesn't matter if it's front to front or back to back. Okay, and then, all right, so here's the folded part. Okay, so we're going to cut up here at the two edges, and we just want them to be as aligned as possible. And we're just going to cut off a little bit of the edges. Okay, and you can either make them a nice isosceles triangle. I wanted, I think, a little bit more on a diagonal. And depending on what you cut will depend on your ultimate shape of your bow. Okay, so now what we've got is a piece. Let's move this off to the side so that you don't have that in the way. Okay, so here's our rectangle. It kind of goes on an angle straight across and then on an angle down. Okay, we now have to pleat this. All right, so what do? I always start on the back side, and I know there's a back side because I can see that there's a seam running through here. Okay, what I do is I fold it in half, so just go edge to edge. Now this is duct tape. It's not going to stay in a really nice fold, but just work it a little bit back and forth and make as nice a pleat as possible, and you'll see it there if you look. But just make as nice a pleat as possible. Okay, the sharper you make it now, the easier it is to work with. All right, we now take our top portion and we fold it in half up to that top edge. Okay, I'm going to flip it over because I want everything to be symmetric. I'm going to fold the bottom up. Okay, now we could stop here if you like the way that that looks, but I wanted to pleat it a little bit more than that. So in order to pleat it more, and I've got it up here in the air. Okay, so I take my top layer only and I fold it in half. Okay, it's a little tiny pleat. It's a pain in the butt. And smooth it down as best you can. Okay, try to go even across. Just do your best you can. Okay, while holding everything, I'm going to turn it over. I still have that pleat. And I'm going to do the same thing here. My hands are in the way, I'm sorry. On the top one. Top edge, we're going to pleat it by folding it up into the center. Okay, trying to figure out the alignment because I need to do it on the table. And I'm sorry I can't change where my iPad is sitting. It's on a stand. And we pleat it all the way across. Okay. Now, just like on my butterfly bow tutorial out of origami paper and dollar bills, we still have a fold from the center. I don't know if you can see this. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to very carefully open it, and I'm trying to hold down those pleats I made so they're tucked underneath, okay? And it's a little fussy. And now I've got this center section, which I'm going to fold up into the center, and it's going to bring that other pleat with it, okay? So I'll just bring it up with it. Okay. I let go so it started to come apart here. So I'm just going to fold it back together, and I want to do this center section into the middle and pleat it down. Okay. Now it's almost accordioned, but it's not. The easiest way to do is for me to hold the whole thing over, roll it over, and fold it in half. Okay. Now there are different ways of doing an accordion pleat fold. You can just start at one edge and start folding, but I do this so that I end up with all my folds being nice and neat and symmetrical. Okay. Now I know this is the back side because I can see that seam, which happens to be my center. I'm going to grab a little piece of that tape that we had off to the side. I'm just going to adhere it to the edge. Try to line it up in the center. Okay. Holding everything together as tight as possible, I'm going to wrap it around the middle. Okay. And I'm just going to wrap it around. Okay. And then we get something that looks like this. Now I shape it a little bit, and then I push out my two sides. I also scrunch down my center a little bit. I think it just makes everything look nicer. And this is the top of my butterfly, so I need to fold it up a little bit. Okay, so I'm just going to give it a little crease. Okay, all I did was take it, fold it up, and give it a little crease. Okay, it's not going to stay in that shape, but I'm just shaping it just a little bit, so it gives it a little bit of a U. Okay, and I'll set her off to the side. So there's the top part of my bow. All right, now let's make the bottom part of our bow. Okay, so we have the other sheet that we made, and we now need to make it so that we have this notch. Okay, so what I did is, again, I folded it in half. I lined up my two edges just to make sure if that wasn't perfectly in half. They should have been. Okay. Now on this one, I started off the same way, and then I wanted notches, but I also wanted that V. So what I did as well is I folded it again. So okay, so here's the fold. Let's try this again. Okay, I folded it in half, and then I folded it again in half, okay, making this nice long rectangular piece. Okay, this is the middle of our bow. Do not cut here. Okay, over here we have 4 layers. It's okay to cut here. Okay, so the first thing we're going to do, and they may not line up perfectly, but just kind of mush it together. Try to line it up as much as you can. Okay, I'm going to cut off the corner. I'm just going to turn it a little bit so that I have the point is here, and then I'm going to notch it. So I'm going to take the point to the center to make a point. When I open this, I now have a piece that has 2 points to it. Okay. Now all we have to do is accordion pleat it again. All right, so because I already folded it, I've got that center line there, so I'm just going to go ahead and fold it. Try to do it up in the air for you this time, so maybe you can see what I'm doing. I fold the top edge down to that center. Instead of flipping it, I'm just going, since I'm up in the air, I'm just going to fold it backwards. That way you can see what I'm doing. Okay, so I've got this pleat started. Again, I could leave it right here if I like the way it looked, but I like pleating it one more time. So I need to fold this edge, top edge, up to the top. And I smooth that down as much as I can to get the pleat to start. Okay, well, you can see that. Okay, I need to do that on this side. So this edge up to the top. Now that's pretty much the way I want it to look, but I've got this extra stuff here, so I'm going to lay it down here on my mat because it makes it a little bit easier for me. Okay, and I'm just going to let it open up. Okay, if I take these two folds and fold it to the center and try to crease it as best you can to try to set this. Okay, this one opened up, and I'm just going to head and fold it right back up, and those two creases go into the center. Again, I know my hands are in the way. Try to get them out so that we just have fingers for you to look at. Then I turn the whole thing over and I fold this in half. Okay, now this is easier to do in paper because things crease together. Okay, now I happen to know this is in the back because I can see, I don't know if you can see it, but there's a seam right here. I'm trying to get it aligned so that you can see the seam. I can see it, but yeah, it's right there. Okay, so I know that's my center. I'm going to grab a piece of my tape that I already had cut off. If not, I'd have to hold this tight while I cut off a piece. That's why I want to do it ahead of time. You want to adhere it down in the center, and you want to wrap it around as tightly as you can. Okay. So there we go, and we've got our bottom made. Okay. Now I'm going to try to decide. I kind of like the way this side looks. I think. Or do I like the side? This side? No, I think I like this side. It's a little bit smoother. And I need this one to go down. Okay. Alright, so I have my top piece that's edged a little bit up, this one that's going down, because now we need to marry the two together. Okay, and all we do is line these two up, one on top of the other, and now we need a piece of tape to go around the center. And I usually start kind of a little bit on the edge, and the reason for that is because I know hold these two together as tight as possible. I want it to go all the way nicely around the back, over the front. I don't want any seams on my front, so this way I can go all the way around, and the seam will end up on the back for me. Now you have to play with it a little bit, okay? And to shape it however you want. The last thing I do is I put it down on my board and I press really hard. Okay, that kind of just flattens out that center a little bit. I think it just makes the bow look so much nicer. Okay, so there we go. Reach over. There was our inspiration, and here's the one that we made. So again, pop onto my channel, Crafting with Purple, P-R-P-L-E. YouTube will try to put the U in there when you're searching, so just say no, you want to search on P-R-P-L-E to find me. And why is my purple missing a U? Well, because I need you, the audience, to make me complete. Anyways, thank you for joining in, and hope you enjoy. Don't forget to subscribe to get notifications of future broadcasts, as well as like the video so I know that you've seen it. Thank you.